Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, The Medieval Reader. So today I am doing the Sisterhood of the World book tag. I was tagged by Steve Donahue, and I am filming in this angle because I need to look up the questions on my computer, and also some of the questions require me to go through my YouTube history to, see what videos I've last viewed. Okay, so question 1. What was a required reading book from elementary or high school that you thought you'd hate but ended up liking? Lord of the Flies by William Golding. It was a book that was assigned reading in 8th grade, and I really didn't like... I enjoyed reading fantasy. That was like the only thing I read when I was growing up was fantasy throughout my childhood. And now I hardly ever read fantasy. I mean, unless it's like medieval fantasies, but I don't read epic adult fantasies, although I do want to read Robin Hobb. But anyway, that's the only thing I read, and I never knew how to analyze a text. I didn't know how to pick it apart. I didn't know how to identify allegory or to identify imagery of any form, intertextuality, any of that. And I was assigned Lord of the Flies, and the way that the teacher in 8th grade taught it blew my mind. Like, I'd never really thought about literature in this way before. And I know that the allegory is super obvious to people, but it wasn't to me, because every time I had to write a report about a book, I would just basically summarize it, and that was it. I never really analyzed it. And so we had this in-class essay test, and so there were 2 questions, and we had, I think, 45 minutes to answer both questions. And then we got extra time because this was the first time that we ever took an essay exam, and I got an F. I got a 50% because I only barely answered the first question. I was so obsessed with all of the thoughts that I had, all of the ideas. I wanted to summarize them all and just put them down on paper. And it was really the beginning of my love for literature, for fine literature. That was the year I was also introduced to poetry. It was the year that I started reading Dickens. And I will forever be grateful to that 8th grade English teacher for introducing me to imagery and metaphor and allegory through Lord of the Flies. I need to reread that book. It was also really quite enjoyable as a story, you know. I read it before Animal Farm, and it is very similar to Animal Farm by George Orwell. Okay, 2. Did your classes do book presentations, and if so, did they interest you? Yes, we did book presentations. They were actually more like papers that we had to submit, but sometimes we had to do book presentations, and I was never interested in them. I didn't know how to do them well. I would just summarize the text. Now, of course, we have to learn how to write conference papers, so I'm very, very, very interested in book presentations, but that's a very different kind of thing than what we did in elementary or high school. I haven't, by the way, taken a proper English class since high school. All of my language courses have been French courses, which is really odd. 3. What is your favorite book of those you've read so far this year? So that would be Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, translated from the Middle English by Keith Harrison. This is in the Oxford World's Classics edition. I mentioned this in my mid-year book freakout tag. It is an amazing, amazing translation. The story itself first is really fun. I began it on New Year's Eve and I finished on New Year's Day. So I'm going to count it for 2017 because I didn't count it for 2016. It is amazing story, enjoyed it, very atmospheric, and the translation is brilliant. Harrison keeps the alliteration in his translation. Let me read you a bit. This novel event was Arthur's New Year present at the dawn of the year. He yearned for such adventures, yet they all wanted for words as they went to their tables. For now the business in hand is heavy, burdensome. Gawain was glad to begin the sport in the hall, but if the game grew serious, think it no surprise. For if men are featherwits when the wine's flowing, time races on, nothing remains unchanged. Our endings rarely square with our beginnings. Yuletide once past, the year followed fast behind. Each new season turning in its time. Yeah, that brilliant, brilliant translation. I am currently reading The Odyssey, translated by Robert Fagles, and that is also a brilliant translation. And the story is also wonderful. But I think I'm going to give my favorite book so far this year is this. I've also liked Dame One by Molière. It's Molière, the 17th century playwright, retelling of the story of Don Giovanni, and that was just so wonderful. Don Giovanni, just a great villain. He's just such a compelling character. I love that. I read it for Booktubeathon last summer. 4, do you prefer series or standalones? I don't really read series very often. I mean, I did it as a child because I read fantasy. I don't read as many companion works as I would like. There are a number of those in French. So Balzac and Zola. I've never read Zola, by the way. Sorry. Yes, I'm a terrible French student. But Balzac, for example, you know, characters in, you know, he'll have a novel dedicated to a certain character, and then that character will appear again in another novel in the series. So I have a feeling that I would like those kind of books. I like being surprised by characters that were in other works, but I don't read series very often, so I guess standalones. Do you prefer character or plot-driven books? So this one's a strange one. So on the one hand, I love books set at sea. I love seafaring novels, love them. Moby Dick, The Odyssey, We the Drowned by Karsten Jensen, which I just finished. Gulliver's Travels is set at sea. Even books, flight stories. So Antoine de Saint-Exupéry wrote The Little Prince. He wrote Courrier Sud, which is translated as Southern Mail Carrier. I like Lord Jim by Joseph Conrad. Those are all adventure stories. They're very plot heavy, but they're also very philosophical. And I think that what I like about these stories is often the philosophical bits more than the plot. So the plot really allows for this philosophical meditation on human nature and death and guilt and, you know, these bigger existential questions. And I really want good character development, compelling characters. So I would say I prefer character-driven books because nothing actually has to happen in the books for me to enjoy them. For example, Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf is one of my favorite books. There is a plot. It's not really what this book is about. There's also Orlando by Woolf, so yeah. 6, where is your favorite place to read? On my bed. I like reading on my bed. 7, what are the last 5 booktube videos you've watched? Okay, let's see. So Francina Simone has a discussion video on YA. It's Are We Ruining YA? And she talks about crossover works between YA and and adult. The funny thing is I love her channel, but I never had a YA phase. Like, I just don't read YA. Maybe a few classics. I guess Lord of the Flies would be considered YA. Separate Peace would be considered YA. But they're also classics. So, yeah, I just... Anne of Green Gables is YA. But, yeah, so I'm not into YA at all. I have not read a single one of the books that she ever mentions. But I just like her channel a lot. And this video is really interesting because she talks about books that are geared for an older young adult audience. Like, they're not for teens, but they're not for like middle-aged adults either, so it's kind of like in the middle. I don't know, so it was interesting. I will link it below. And then I've been binge watching Neil Griffith's videos, so I'll just mention one that I thought is interesting. He had a video quite a while ago on editing a novel, and he was talking about large novels and how large novels don't necessarily imply lack of editing, and that rambling in a large novel isn't necessarily a bad thing. So I will link that below. Let's see. I also watched Geek Prawn Vlogs, who has had a very difficult relationship with BookTube, as in he doesn't like BookTube. but he was talking about some comics, and I really want to get into comics, but I just never know where to begin, so I'm hoping that watching his videos will help me. I will link his video below. What's that? 3? Okay, Just One Reader, talked about some of the most recent books he's read. Books and Things did the booktube about me tag. And so, yes, those are the 5 most recent videos I watched. Was that 5 videos? I don't know. I will link them below. I can't count. And then I think the next one is that I have to talk about 5 non-book related YouTube videos I watched. I am obsessed with books, so I hardly ever watch anything other than book related videos. I will say that I watch Zoella's channel. I do. I have to admit that. I like her channel. It's fun, and I'm starting to wear makeup, so I need to learn how to do that better. And I don't know, she's pleasant, and it's entertaining. It passes the time, so I do watch that. I watch Ryan Higa on his channel, Niga Higa. I always feel uncomfortable saying the name of that channel. But yes, I do love all of his videos. And then I watch College Humor, and College Humor has... yeah. It's not about college anymore. Okay, now they're starting to make more videos again about college, but it's just not funny. I don't know. But those are 3. I don't really... I'm looking through this to see... I also listen to some Studio Ghibli, I don't actually know how to pronounce it because I've never seen any of the films, but I've been listening to some soundtracks as study music, and I will link those below. They're gorgeous, absolutely beautiful. Again, whether or not this should be on YouTube is not my business. Okay, next question. If you could live in any world with any characters, what would it be? Where would it be and who? I would love to be a hobbit in Middle-earth. Just because my dream home has my bedroom above ground and then like all the other major rooms below ground. I just love the idea of like living below ground for some reason. I do like windows, I like, you know, going outside, but that sounds wonderful. I don't know, I'm not into gardening very much, but I mean, the hobbits basically live very unhealthy lives and still live to be like 130 years old. Not that I want to live, you know, I don't smoke, but I'm just impressed by all the things that they can do and still live that long. It's really impressive. I've always had this dream of writing a novel featuring a baker in a medieval village. I just love the idea of a baker in a medieval village. I don't know, just they would know the ins and outs of the village, like they would know all the town gossip. But yeah, that would be really interesting to me. And now I'm gonna tag people, so let's see. I will tag Jess at the Garden Scriptorium, and Crystal at BiblioAtlas, and Run Right Reads. And that's it. I can't really, you know, anybody else who wants to do it. I just found 3 people who I think haven't done it. Other people might have already done it. So yeah, let me know if you've read any of these books, and I would like to make some book chats on here. I've never done one before, like a full-length book chat, but I'm almost done with the Odyssey. I should finish it today, and there's just so much to say about this beautiful poem. So I would like to do that, and maybe I'll do like a video both on We the Drowned and the Odyssey. But yes, I love books set at sea. It's a weird thing about me. Also set in the Middle Ages, but you know, you kind of already know that. Anyway, I'll see you later. Bye now.